Jesus forgives sin with authority. In Mark 2:10, Jesus makes a statement that shocks the religious leaders of his time. But I want you to know that the Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins. This declaration is not just a claim of moral authority, it is a direct assertion of divine power. But this raises a critical question. If Jesus isn't God, why does he forgive sins? Tonight, we will explore this claim, examine its significance, and challenge skeptics and non-believers to confront this undeniable truth. The forgiveness of sins is a central theme in the Bible, but it is also a divine prerogative. In the Old Testament, God alone is described as the one who forgives sins. In Isaiah 43:25, God declares, "I, even I, am he who blots out your transgressions for my own sake and remembers your sins no more." For Jesus to claim the authority to forgive sins was not just controversial, it was revolutionary. It was a claim that only God could make. The religious leaders of his time understood this perfectly. In Mark 2:7, they ask, "Why does this fellow talk like that? He's blaspheming. Who can forgive sins but God alone?" Their reaction shows that they recognized Jesus' words as a claim to divinity. Skeptics often argue that Jesus was just a moral teacher or a prophet. But no prophet or teacher could claim the authority to forgive sins. This is a power that belongs to God alone. By forgiving sins, Jesus is asserting his divine authority. If he were not God, his words would be the height of arrogance or deception. But if he is telling the truth, then he is indeed God incarnate, the one who has the power to forgive sins and restore humanity to a right relationship with God. To the skeptics and non-believers listening tonight, I pose this challenge. Disprove this claim. If Jesus is not God, then explain how he could forgive sins. Explain why the religious leaders accused him of blasphemy for this statement. Explain how his life, teachings, and miracles align so perfectly with the character and will of God. If Jesus is not God, then provide an alternative explanation that accounts for the evidence. The evidence is overwhelming. Jesus' authority to forgive sins is not an isolated claim. Throughout the Gospels, we see him demonstrating divine power, healing the sick, calming storms, raising the dead, and accepting worship. These actions are not the works of a mere man, they are the works of God. In John 8:24, Jesus warns, "If you do not believe that I am he, you will indeed die in your sins." This is not the language of someone who is merely representing God. This is the language of someone who is God. Perhaps you're thinking, but what if I'm wrong? What if Jesus really is who he says he is? That's a question worth considering, because if he is, then your understanding of forgiveness and your eternal destiny hinge on how you respond to him. The authority of Jesus to forgive sins is not just a theological concept, it's an invitation to experience his grace, to be freed from the burden of guilt, and to be reconciled to God. But the choice is yours. Will you accept his authority, or will you continue to deny the truth? Tonight, I leave you with this challenge. Examine the evidence. Wrestle with the claims of Christ. Seek the truth with an open heart and mind, because the stakes are too high to ignore. Jesus forgives sin with authority because he is God, the one who has the power to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. The question is, will you come to him for forgiveness? The choice is yours. Choose wisely.